Hey guys, so for today's video I'm going to have to film my computer screen to show you some examples, so unfortunately you don't get to see my face. I know a lot of you are going to be really disappointed about that. But anyway, so we're going to review a little bit about quotation marks and indirect objects from the previous chapter, chapter 9 in Shurley. And I'm also going to review some concepts for chapter 11 because today, shortly after the video, I didn't post it before the video because I didn't want you to go ahead and take it without having watched this. But shortly after the video, I'm going to post a Shurley Chapter 11 quiz. It will be a quiz grade, so make sure you take your time with it. You can use your book, you can use videos, whatever, that's fine with me. Use any resources that you have available, but make sure you put a lot of effort into this. A quiz grade is something some of you need, especially after the first one, because a few of you hurt your grades pretty significantly by doing poorly on the first one. All right, so talking about the chapter 9 concepts I wanted to go back over. So with quotation marks, one thing that I want to be clear about is when we have a direct quote versus an indirect quote. This is a direct quote, okay? This is on that Grammarly site that I shared on Google Classroom, where it says, John said, I really hate when it's hot outside. Or if it said, I really hate when it's hot outside, comma, and then after the quotation marks, John said. Either way, this is a direct quote. You're saying specifically what he said. Now, you could reword this and you could say, John said he hated it when it was hot outside. That's like you could say, Mr. Jones said we would have a test on blah, 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 blah. It's an indirect quote. You're saying what they said, but you're not directly quoting their exact words, okay? John said, I really hate when it's hot outside. Those are obviously his words because of the I. John wouldn't say he hated it when it was hot outside if he was talking about himself, so it's an indirect quote. We're rewording what he said, okay? The other thing I want us to notice is that in the direct quote, you have the dialogue tag here, followed by a comma, and then everything that is spoken and the period for the sentence are in quotation marks, okay? Pretty much everything you guys do with quotation marks, you're always going to put the punctuation for the quote inside the quotation marks, all right? And you'll put a comma before the quotation marks if they don't start the sentence. Now, if the sentence started there, see if I can hold that right. I really hate when it's hot outside. This period would then become a comma. It would be, I really hate when it's hot outside, comma, and then John said would follow here with a period after it. So it just depends on where the dialogue tag comes. And sometimes you can have dialogue tags in the middle of a sentence. Let me see if they have good examples of that. I'm pretty sure they do. You don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff. Now, quotation and capitalization, obviously you capitalize the first letter of a quote if you're quoting a full sentence, but if you're just quoting part of a sentence, you notice right there, quoting part of a phrase or sentence, and you don't have to capitalize the start of it. Let's see, yeah, splitting a quote in half. So this is what I'm talking about with a dialogue tag in the middle. So the problems with opinions, comma, Paula explained, comma, is that everyone has one. So everything that's spoken, again, is in quotation marks. There's a comma here inside the quotation marks to tell us that that part of the quote's over. Then we have our dialogue tag, again, a comma, then quotation marks. The easiest way I can think of to remember this, such that it doesn't get complicated, is that your punctuation, whether it's a comma, a period, a question mark, whatever, always comes before the quotation marks, whether it's inside or outside of them, okay? So here, it's inside the quotation marks, but it still comes before the quote. Here, it's outside the quotation marks, but it comes before them. And here, your period is inside the quotes, but it still comes before one, okay? So you don't put it after the quotation marks. There are some weird cases where you do, but you guys won't ever have to worry about those unless you maybe in college you're running some weird punctuation when you're citing something for a paper. So don't worry about it right now. It'll just get you confused. But in general, put your punctuation before the quotation marks. You just have to recognize where you need punctuation, and that should simplify that a lot. Let me make sure there's nothing else crazy that we need to go over right there. Quotes within quotes. This is a quote from Harry Potter, I'm pretty sure, or about Harry Potter. So the Dementor's Kiss is my favorite chapter in the whole series. Here it doesn't work, and the page points out why, because we've got double quotes, and it's using it to say this thing is called this, like the title of it, and it's setting it off with quotes, because that's how you would set off the title of a chapter if it showed up by itself. But this is within something that a guy's saying, okay? So instead we use single quotes, okay? So single quotes are how we quote something inside of what someone is saying. So this whole thing is what Tom said, okay? The Dementor's Kiss is my favorite chapter in the whole series. But the actual name of the chapter, instead, he does in single quotes. And this works the same way if you're quoting someone who is quoting someone else. If it was, Sarah said, I'm sad, comma, Tom said. Sarah said, I'm sad is what Tom said, so it's in double quotes, but I'm sad is what Sarah actually said, so you would put it in single quotes, like here. And that can be a little bit confusing. You just want to keep track of who is saying what when you're using multiple quotation marks. Titles of short works is the other thing you need to remember with quotes. Basically, my rule is if it takes under an hour to read or watch or whatever, use quotation marks for the title, like a poem or a short story, a YouTube video, anything like that, a newspaper article. If you're going to write its title, put quotes around it. If it's anything long, like a full book or a movie you'd go watch in theaters, put it in italics, which is the slanted letters. All right, I think that covers quotation marks pretty well. So I want to go back to indirect objects. So this is something a few of us were confused by here. These top 4 sentences all have indirect objects and they are all underlined. Okay, so the underlined words in these sentences are indirect objects. Most of us did pretty well with this, but in general, what I'm going to suggest in a sentence like this where you're looking for the objects is to find the verb. Okay, it's going to be an action verb if you have objects. So obviously the verb in this first sentence is baked. What did I do? I is the noun. I baked. And then what was baked? A cake, right? Didn't bake your mom. We've gone over that several times. At least I hope you didn't. I know quarantine's kind of crazy, but please don't put your mom in the oven. So the cake was baked, but then it was baked for mom. Okay, that's implied by the structure of the sentence. So mom is in the indirect object. She receives the cake. Okay, she wasn't baked. She doesn't receive the action of the verb, but she receives the result of it, which is a baked cake. Okay, so direct object is here, but then mom is the indirect. Notice again, the indirect always comes between the verb and the direct object. He threw John the ball. Again, he is our subject. Threw is obviously the verb, the action being performed. So what was thrown? Not John, unless he's tiny, but still not in this sentence. Threw the ball. Okay, the ball's being thrown. And then to whom is it thrown? To John. John receives not the action, not the throwing, but the result of it. He receives the thrown ball. Again, comes between verb and direct object. I sent my teacher an email about the exam. So I sent, again, sent's obviously the verb, it's the action. You're sending something. What was sent? An email. Okay? The email was the thing actually sent, not the teacher, hopefully. Now, to whom was the email sent? To the teacher. Okay? So again, indirect object here between verb and direct object. Prepositional phrase at the end can be ignored for this case. Tell Sally and Bob the secret about the pizza. I don't know what the secret about the pizza is. Please don't send me an email asking me. But you can have a compound indirect object. So tell what is being told. And this is obviously an implied subject of you since it's an imperative sentence. It's a command. So what's being told? Secret. Tell secret. Now to whom are we telling the secret? Sally and Bob. They're both indirect objects. Both come between verb and direct object. Okay? And again, we have a prepositional phrase at the end that you can ignore for the purposes of this sentence. Nothing too complicated. I hope that clears those up a bit. Pretty much all sentences with indirect objects are going to follow that simple pattern. We've got a subject, noun, or pronoun, a verb, an indirect object, a direct object. Nothing too difficult about that. Verb transitive if you're going by Shurley rules. Now down here, I've got a couple sentences for practice for chapter 11. Again, if you're going to take the quiz today, you might want to look back at yesterday's video where I talk about predicate nouns in depth. I didn't give any example of those today because I talked about them a lot yesterday. But if you want any examples or anything, by all means, let me know and I can type some up and do the same thing I'm doing here. But Jerry is a lawyer. Okay, what I'm looking for today in our Shurley chapter 11 quiz, there's going to be a section of 5 questions that asks you to find the predicate noun in each sentence. Nothing too difficult there. And then there will be a section of 5 questions that gives you a sentence and it gives you one of the nouns in the sentence underlined, like if I underlined Jerry here or lawyer, and it asks you to say what noun job is being performed by that noun. So Jerry in this sentence, if I ask you what Jerry was doing, it's the subject of the sentence pretty obviously, right? It's the main thing in the sentence. So it's the subject noun. And then if I ask you what lawyer was, well, lawyer, based on it being in the predicate, is either, and there's no indirect object, is either a direct object or a predicate noun. So we have to look at what type of verb we have. Is. It's not an action, it's a linking verb. And it connects Jerry to lawyer. Jerry is lawyer. It's lawyer renames Jerry, reclarifies what he is. So then lawyer is a predicate noun. Both are nouns, subject noun, predicate noun. But it depends on, which one I'm asking you for. If I ask you for what is lawyer's noun job, you would say predicate noun. If I ask you what is Jerry's noun job in this sentence, you would say subject noun. Then I come down to this sentence. If I say he sent his client a letter about the trial, this sentence is a little bit more complicated. It has more nouns. Start off, find your subject. Every sentence has to have a subject and a verb. So it's obviously he. He's the thing performing the action in the sentence. So this is a subject noun or subject pronoun in this case. Sent is our verb. So sent is an action verb. Based on the fact that this is an action verb, we look at the predicate and see if there is anything being sent, anything receiving the action. So he sent, what was sent? Letter. Okay, sometimes there's not going to be anything. I could say he ran, right? That's a full sentence. He ran. Subject, verb, no object. But he sent letter. Okay, so then letter is being sent. It's a direct object. If I asked you for a letter's noun job, you'd say direct object. Was it sent to anyone? Did anyone receive the sent letter? Yeah, client. Sent letter to client. Client is then the indirect object, comes between the direct object and the verb. And again, it's still a noun. So this indirect object, this client, is receiving the sent letter. And its noun job is indirect object. Now here at the end, we have a prepositional phrase. We haven't done anything with prepositional phrases in a while, but you should remember that they have preposition and object to the preposition. There's an article adjective in there usually, but it doesn't have to be. So about the trial is our prepositional phrase, but the thing you should know is that objects of the preposition are also nouns, okay? So about the trial. Trial is an object of the preposition because it's a noun inside of a prepositional phrase. Now, the main thing that I want you to take away from this is that anything in a sentence that is a person or a thing, a place, an idea, anything like that is a noun, okay? If I said he sent his client a letter about the trial, let's see if I can type one-handed, bear with me, in Alabama. If I say he sent his client a letter about the trial in Alabama, we end up with another prepositional phrase here at the end. Again, one lacking an article adjective. Alabama is a place. It's still a noun. It's an object of the preposition as a noun job, but it is still a noun as a part of speech. Now, when I ask you on your quiz what noun job is being performed by some of these words, and it's not going to be these exact sentences, I'm not wanting you to just say noun, okay? I think I'll make these multiple choice, but still, I'm not wanting you to just say, well, it's a noun. I want you to say it's an object of the preposition, or it's a direct object, an indirect object, it's a subject pronoun, it's a subject noun, it's a predicate noun, things like that. And as you can see based on this second sentence, a lot of them can show up in the same sentence. You could technically have a compound sentence with every type of noun job within it. I could say I could say Jerry is a lawyer, comma, and he sent his client a letter about the trial in Alabama. That's one compound sentence that would contain every noun job we've gone over. I won't do that on the quiz because I think that's a little bit confusing, but still, you need to be prepared for that kind of thing. You need to recognize, person, place, thing, idea, which I don't have in this sentence. If I said, Jerry sent his client a letter about the trial in Alabama, about the trial, I can't come up with a good way to put an idea in that sentence, but if I say something like, Jerry thinks a lot about history. History would be an idea, okay? It's not necessarily a thing. It's not a place. It's not a person. It would be an object of the preposition in that sentence. Jerry thinks a lot about history. So history serves as an idea. It would still be a noun, but its noun job would be object of the preposition. So be prepared to identify noun jobs. Be prepared to find predicate nouns in sentences, and you should be good on the quiz for today. Can't really think of anything else you should need. We'll start on Unit 12 vocab tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions. See you guys.